Warning. This video contains discussion of serious subject matters that might be disturbing for some viewers. I have an important announcement to make. Shadow the Hedgehog's a bitch! You might have been manipulated. This well-favored space called the internet has done something to you, and not in a shady or subconscious way. In reality, it was blatant because you might have allowed it to occur. Here's how exactly you were manipulated into being afraid of the out of bounds. The year was 2009, I believe. I was young, now over 8 years old, but video games surely fascinated me. An expensive hobby for a kid to take up in a family of my economic status meant the only games I could obtain were cheap or used copies of games published years prior. The Wii's backward compatibility feature certainly assisted in surrounding me with GameCube titles far after the console's lifespan. Yet these games are among the best I've ever played. In a limited collection of 10 games, I was fortunate enough to have selected 3 that would become favorites in the future. But we're not discussing any of those 3, rather we're going over this one, good old Mario Sunshine. Funnily enough, I didn't beat Sunshine for the longest time because I suck at it, much like with making videos, so I just sort of fumbled around with nothing to do, appreciating the scenarios and sometimes getting shrines, much like with making videos. I guess I enjoyed acquiring the 100 coin shines the most, as they rewarded me for hanging around, loafing, much like most other creators when making videos. It happened on a conventional day, playing Gelato Beach. I did something silly. I observed an undetailed mound in the distance while springing on a cable and I figured, you know what? I can go there. And then I fell through the ground. That was uncanny, but I understood games plenty enough to figure out I had just done something that I wasn't intended to. And despite shortly dying because Mario Sunshine calls a hitman on players who fall out of bounds as a failsafe, this unimportant trick became my obsession for a day. I realized I can explore more of the world if I sustain a rhythm, jumping to extend my lifespan in those uncharted lands. Until eventually, I realized something was very wrong. I felt powerful. Here I was, breaking the rules of this universe where no one could forbid me. I had the control for those brief instants, and I started to ponder which other games had similar stuff. I looked high and low to find something similar, and I probably did, but I just can't recall. I simply felt the joy of defying the system, doing something mischievous without any consequence. I was ecstatic. But that's not what some of you experienced, is it? For some of you, the out of bounds has been transfigured, gruesomely modified into, well, this. Dread and fear are emotions that can originate from numerous places, from natural responses to psychological ones to the completely unreasonable ones. It's not a consistent emotion. A human can be frightened of something that makes someone else laugh. Take heights for example. Some people have a visceral reaction to witnessing a character high up in a video game or film. Some others, like me, feel discomforted getting near any high ledge. And there's a surprising amount of people who do this fucking shit like, bro, are you alright? Do you need something till life isn't giving you? Because I don't know you, but I think I can try something. It's a better alternative. In some measure, fear does originate from primal and instinctive emotions. It's akin to holding a hot stove. Our body reacts without the logical process in our brains occurring until milliseconds after. The brain formulates thought much faster than we are able to organize. Conversely though, you get distress from sources often psychological, where the thought process itself was the originator for feeling fear, though that's fear of the unknown. Your reaction was brought forth from whatever your mind conceived or purposely decided to omit. But how does this apply to being out of bounds? Are we somehow afraid of backface culling, you know, and the 3D model only renders the parts towards the direction of the normal tangent? And I strongly doubt that's the case, unless you're like mega numerophobic, but for like 3D plane. And honestly, that form of fear has a more straightforward name than you'd imagine, but I digress. I'm going on normal tangents about normal tangents, aren't I? What I'm getting at is to say that the out of bounds traditionally does not affect us as a result of our human nature. There's no primal fear related to going through walls, though you can make an argument to loneliness or vacancy as adjacent that goes down the drain considering games are a natural human system that basically exists to avert ourselves from primal fears, so we're already in our apex environment to deal with those emotions. There has to be a psychological rationale to it, something scary and novel, and so let's explore the Backrooms. Trendy weird pictures go brrr, I guess. Oh look, a video on the Stanley Parable's design, you should watch that later. The Backrooms probably need no introduction. Endless hallways, always yellow, change of pace, I'm making them pink. These hallways are pretty polemic because there's 3 main approaches to it, targeting different fears. One is simple. Whoever is trapped there is merely awaiting the appearance of an entity that is about to offer them some tea and biscuits. Yeah, totally. The second one gets complex. levels, aesthetics, game mechanics, basically SCP Foundation 2. And the third one is one of those targeting the primal fears of emptiness. There's nothing there, just time and the underlying feeling of infinite dread. That final approach is key because primordial fears can be transformed into something akin of a phobia, a placebo phobia, so to speak. But more on this later. Legend says one can locate the backrooms given they fall through the confines of the real world. This extends to a classic format of suggestion. The first tool someone exploited to... Hold on, I just lost the game. The first tool exploited to influence your perception on the out of bounds. I will display an image now, take a look. Ain't it cool? Well, it's told that anyone who observes this picture will die 10 years later unless they present it to someone else, or subscribe to the Smash Tomatoes YouTube channel so you know what. Now, you probably said bullshit buddy to yourself, but how convinced are you that I'm not speaking the truth? Perhaps you'll really die 10 days from now. That thought process you are experiencing is representative of suggestion. For the following days, you're likely to consider the chance of dying is larger than null, which is unusual for humans. I've planted an idea into your psyche and you'll keep it subconsciously for a finite period. Now, presume this could broaden to essentially your entire lifetime. Now, the game I'm about to explain is going to nag at some of you for a really long time and I apologize in advance, but I promise it's fun. In the game, you fail upon remembering that it exists, yet win if you don't recall it when you die. Easy peasy, good luck. It's recommended and sort of a rule that if you lose, you announce it out loud, cause screw people, and of course if someone doesn't know what the game is, you explain it to them. And don't worry about losing, cause nothing frightful is supposed to happen on the feed. It's just a mind virus funny thing. But in summation, what I've just done is turn you into a sleeper agent that reacts to saying the game. If you've been wondering why I've used Bioshock footage for this segment, you should play Bioshock. So I think we're on the same page now. You're alert about how easily the manipulation begins by planting a rudimentary idea in someone's brain, such as staying out of bounds is a terrifying feeling. That's only tool 1, however. For a suggestion to truly take effect, one must anticipate its conceivable first. Mind you, conceivable to mean a non-zero chance, very much unlike reasonable. Here's when logic comes in. You've ever wondered why content creators get sponsors? I mean, not me since no one watches my stuff, but what's different between an ad on YouTube and one in a video? The answer is cognitive bias. Specifically the bandwagon effect, a tendency for some individuals to absorb behavior they witness in other people, easily propagated through influential people. If a creator endorses a product, it makes the product appear more popular and famous. You've got suggested trying the product, and then the logic that makes you follow through with the suggestion is the perceived notion that other people are doing it as well. Therefore, it must be good. In case of going out of bounds, the proof of why it's terrifying is rooted often in phobias, anxiety disorders that cause irrational fear of something. If you connected the dots because you think you're better than me at those star puzzles in the kids menu, which by the way you're not, I'm much better, notice the logic being used to make people unreasonably afraid of something is the proof that irrational fears exist. Thus, it's rational to have irrational fears. Evidently, phobias cannot be developed on older people, though some of you younger viewers here might have unfortunately developed such phobias to completion thanks to the internet, which has expanded the range of development of different situations across the world. Of course, nothing has been proven, it's just a really popular theory. For anyone over 15 or so though, the problem is null. The phobia will always remain subdued almost in its entirety. What you'll develop here is not actually a phobia, rather the suggestion of one. The concept of a phobia's existence on a higher than zero chance. What if? We are grabbing potential phobias and presenting them in a way that ticks a box telling your brain said elements are terrifying because you have this phobia. In case of the backrooms, kinophobia, fear of empty space. Crepophobia is quite a popular instance. This goes towards patterned holes, which originates in virtue of pictures such as the one I'll briefly show. Look aside if you're sensitive. This revolting thing. Okay, it's gone. These images themselves are off-putting, but they are not proof of trypophobia. The image is specifically designed to gross you out. They merely plant the suggestion that the onlooker might suffer from something, which could actually lead to its development in some psychologies. And in case of the fear of going through the world's boundaries, either bursophobia, fear of video game glitches, or apeirophobia, fear of the infinite found beyond the confines of the map. But truth be told, there's no name for irrationally fearing slipping through the map or defying the conventions of reality, so I coined the term dyspragmaphobia, fear of non-existent reality. Very primal, and I hate to be somebody with it. Oh wait, I think we all have it because we all fear having no existence after we die, and that's why we invented heaven and hell. Wow, great. I call these pseudophobias. I'm pseudo-ergophobic, I fear getting a real occupation.
Donate to my Patreon so I don't fear myself to death.
And finally, before the illusion is complete, we need a bridge connecting the ideas between the fear and the item to be feared. Something to stimulate our cognition into believing they should associate these conjunctively. Here's another example for those of us perpetually online. You should step on yourself. This gave you more urge to subscribe than watching this video thus far. Stimulation can be anything. Sound effects are the easier form of it, but anything that elicits a response on you is stimuli. A scary story like the 10 days image is stimuli, me screaming, "The game!" is stimuli, and me showing you someone fall out of bounds with a slow fade to black as the image is posterized is stimuli. Those 3 tools I've tackled thus far are
Impractical alone.
which leads me to the answer you've been waiting for. How could I have been deceived like this? What potentially happened here is a conditioning process, as follows. You get 2 elements, both of which involve a provocation and an instinctual response, such as when you clicked on this video saying the thumbnail was a provocation and you responded to it with a click. In addition to making you legendary, you took those actions independently of an external element. Equally applies to things that generate emotional responses, such as this footage of bunnies making you feel blissful because I look so cute, I want to join in. But let's proceed to grab these buns and intertwine them with distorted, malfigured, inhuman faces. Well, now it seems the bunnies aren't as energizing anymore. They attained new meaning, and now I can play the rabbit clip without the creepy matter, and you'll associate the possible imagery with the negative one. Were I to do this enough, these bunnies would become much more alerting to you. Ta-da! I've conditioned you to fear adorable 1997 fluffies, but don't worry, it's temporary because I don't want to make you fear bunnies forever, that would be rude. Honestly, conditioning fear is a really terrifying concept, one that has been tested out by this cardboard box in the dump of my Animal Crossing Horizons town, John B. Watson. That was a light insult. This man conducted the Little Albert experiment, where an infant which forever remained anonymous was conditioned to fear harmless white rats by playing scary sounds whenever he touched the rat, and eventually the child feared rats. No clue for how long, since they never publicized who the child was, but there's a true example so you're aware I'm not putting this crap out of my ass. And this is the conditioning process that develops phobias and the collywobbles on you, audience member. This is how creators manipulate you consistently, for negative and positive feelings. And it's not a thing exclusive to YouTube, mind you. Gordon Ramsay reality shows have done it for years too.
Don't worry, thank you.
But mutated here is what you understand an author's intent to be. Media, whether it's a movie or a video game or whatever, is a dialogue between a group of engineers and a crowd of spectators, author and reader, who will try to appeal and understand each other. What is regularly a mistake that shows the piece was created by a human hand instructing thousands of commands upon a computer is seen differently under the eyes of a person that has been conditioned. It suddenly becomes temporary punishment for defying a creator by using their creation in an unintended way. Despite no one truthfully knowing said author's intention, the possibility of a faulty reaction to an original purpose is all that is necessary for a complete spiral beyond rationale. The images YouTubers have shown you, besides the discussion of being out of bounds, have done a great job at capturing your intrigue and turning it into aversion, using images, sounds, and descriptions, exaggerating a topic into something distinct. The funny part is how conditioning doesn't have to be for negative emotions. You can condition good feelings to events in content. It's all a masterful use of trickery, a gaslight, so to speak. Have you ever considered how competent we content creators appear? Why are we so good at explaining game design, or finding information, or music theory, or maybe noticing the strange implications of a character's genes? I'll never forgive you, Matt Pat. 2 purple guys. Sheesh. Could this be like the bandwagon effect I touched upon earlier? Is it likely that we appear to be more talented than we are? Well, I won't agree or deny because it's not my place to, but let's just say the chance is non-zero. I got a little secret that's been toiling at me for a bit. Actually, I've tricked you up to 7 times in this video alone. Starting from the warning, I misled you into thinking the subject matter I was about to discuss was alarming, when in reality I only brought about complex words about existential topics without getting into why they're terrifying. I cut your train of thought short, leaving intrigue only to talk about my personal experience and emotion, making you sympathize with me. Later on, I suggested you might die over an image. I conditioned you to lose the game, no more explanation necessary, and remember the bunnies. But most importantly, I misled you by explaining that the initial requirement to condition someone is only a non-zero chance. That is not the case. I only made it so that you believe being manipulated is easier, thus increasing my chances at manipulating you into giving me time. I apologize, but you're at the end of the video, so the joke's on you, Mario! Idiot, I just explained what I was doing to you in real time and you fell for it, buddy! And that ended up being way more psychological than intended. I barely cracked jokes. There's a non-zero chance I failed completely at impacting, which would make me not only into a clown, but a terrible one. Yikes.